first things first, I want to set the stage a bit without talking about Barca, believe it or not, when we're talking about registering players. Barca get all the headlines about player registration because they have players under contract that they are trying to push out, and they still went out and got new ones. And of course, the buzz is all about Barcelona all the time because that's what gets clicks and yada, yada, yada. So we'll talk about that from a Barca perspective later, but they aren't the only ones that I said. It's Real Betis will be pulling their own economic lever to register their 6 new signings. It's an agreement with an investment fund to sell a percentage of subscription and future ticket rights for the next 5 years. And I can say personally that if Barca sold any bit of their gate revenue, I'd be very, very frustrated. And that would definitely be a bigger call to arms than anything else that Barca has sold so far in assets. And then Sevilla, Villarreal, Elche, Almeria, Celta, Rayo, and Real Valladolid, plus potentially Atleti, are likely going to be missing players this weekend. According to ESPN, as of yesterday, only 34 of the newly signed 90 players to the Liga clubs have been registered. And those are...
And part of this is by design. Like, I'm going to interrupt you right there because the media reports that only a small percentage of the players is registered. This is because clubs are waiting until the last possible moment to actually hit that registration button, because it's actually a system. It's like almost like an app where you click register me the players and they get registered or not. But they're waiting until the last moment because it's more advantageous for clubs to register like a high amount of players at the time than to try to register 2 players now and 3 players next week. So part of this is by design. We're going to see on Saturday what the situation is really like. I do think that it is an issue when we have a league where the actual league, I'm not going to say forced, but almost strong-armed clubs to take the CVC deal and give up 10% of the television rights. Still is in a situation where most of the clubs are not sure whether they can register the players that they signed, despite the fact that, you know, most of the clubs did not sign anybody of note.
Well, yeah. Do we know which of those clubs are doing as you said and waiting until that final moment? And do we know the clubs that, arguably like Barcelona, who might legitimately have issues with the financial limitations in actually registering these players? Like,
Betis has issues because they gave up 10% of their rights for Tebas in the CVC deal, and now they're selling part of the gate receipts. Reportedly, Atletico has issues as well. I mean, Real Madrid signed Tchouaméni, which I think is a very, very good signing. And they're not going to sign anybody else. But okay, Tchouaméni was like 100 million euros, right? Barcelona is just going wild with the signings. But what other player of note is coming to La Liga? Can you name me one? Can you name me one signing to La Liga where you say like, oh wow, that's a great signing?
I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, I can't really. I mean, I went through this the other day as far as who would be coming in.
Yeah, I went through it. I went through it. I think yesterday or this morning. I read like all of the signings that came in, and sure, I had like a very busy day at work, so my mind is all over the place. But now that I'm talking to you, I'm like, okay, so who is coming to La Liga exactly?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Alex Witsel on a free from Atleti. It's Antonio Rudiger on a free from Chelsea, Tchouaméni to Real Madrid, and then even like Bryce Mendes to Real Sociedad from Celta is one of the biggest moves that happened in the Liga this year. I mean, you have right, and then we're already talking about the Borja Moral and Hugo Duro being permanent, and then Almeria bringing in Kayik from Santos, the young 18-year-old center back. Again, then now we're talking Tati Castellanos coming from NYCFC to Girona. Like, then that's the next level. I mean,
right. So, besides Barcelona and Madrid, because Barcelona and Madrid signed players of renown, Atleti's top signing is Witsel. I'm sorry.
I mean, Noel Molina, the right back, might be their better signing in the long run because of this age. But yeah, I mean, now we're putting
and even then, the question is, well, can Betis, can Elche, can Almeria register their signings? I've always been in favor of the fair play rules in La Liga, because I believe in fair play. I think the disgrace is that fair play is not implemented elsewhere. However, at the same time, it's also true that if fair play is only implemented in La Liga, then it hurts La Liga.
right. Yeah, I mean, without an influx of, I mean, that's the thing that you run the risk of Sevilla. Sevilla had just as great success in the Europa League for so long, and they sold off their two biggest center backs, and yet they're struggling in theory to register their signings. And again, that squad,
Right.
in terms of Sevilla that we've known for the last 10 years, the squad that they're going to put on the field this weekend, they could have other players coming in, but their squad stinks right now in comparison to a regular Sevilla squad.
It's very imbalanced also because they got rid of their two central defenders and their best signing, and this is actually a relatively high profile signing, I suppose, is Isco. But they didn't really need Isco. But then again, if Isco goes to Sevilla, then Isco is the best player on that team, and they can build their team around Isco.
I mean, maybe.
And like what you would normally expect is for Isco to play better in Sevilla than he played in Madrid.
I mean, maybe that guy, he might be completely lost to the woods. I mean, we don't know that. I mean, Isco hasn't played in a long time.
True.
So, I mean, even that, I mean, I think it's watered down risk. I mean, it's like.
Did they pay for him or did he come on a free?
He was a free.
On a free.
Largest certain, yeah. Okay, so now for the Barcelona part of this, that's what people care about here. So to get players registered, there is clearly still discussion about, and listen, I know you're going to do this, but you can keep jumping in as to what's true, what's not true, because I think there's so many reports from different places where the information that I've coupled, the information that you're coupled could be different. And I'm not sure which of us is right. I'm not sure which of us is wrong. My thing as far as going through the aggregations of different news sources is trying to figure out, what makes the most sense based on the timelines, based on what Catalan media is saying, based on what other journalists who are connected to the club are saying, then kind of throwing out any fluff pieces, right? Like it's basically any article that I have read or any tweet that I have seen that doesn't really have a number, that doesn't really have an indication that they have an understanding of, or they're getting leaks about the numbers from the club or the league. Then I kind of see those and say, okay, it seems like this one's more opinion than actual understanding of the thing. Now, First thing here, to get players registered, there was clearly discussion about selling off additional assets. They're calling it a fourth lever, but just additional assets in whatever way you want to look at it, to as well as hoping that Busquets and Piqué do what Carlos Puyol did years ago and accept straight pay cuts without deferred payments. That would be that kind of story. That kind of story, putting on a Sherlock Holmes hat.
Even deferred payments going to help, but go on.
Right. Well, and rumors are that those two are already under heavy deferred payments. So they're asking them for straight pay cuts instead of deferred payments for that very reason. Because then you're just creating a future problem. But
of course.
Then the reason why that seems to have some truth to it is because, again, not only is it true over the course of a few days here, but it does make sense based on Busquets' salary, like we talked about before, being the second highest paid on the team now, with Franky Young be the other one. So now a story that I kind of throw out very quickly on the opposite end of that is that I'm happy to see that the contract criminality story kind of blew over rather quickly, making me wonder the truth to it. So I had a number of lawyer friends of mine read the story, and they all said that no matter what, it would take a lot of time for anything to kind of be figured out in a criminal case, right?
Yeah. That's obvious.
A criminal contract, right? that's also an outrageous thing that takes years of arbitration.
Yeah, so, that's going to take 2-3 years.
Yeah. So no matter what would happen, it's not going to be good for either party, Barca or the players, because again, Barca's the ones who signed the contract with the players. And one of those players being Franky Young, it just makes it even worse, at the moment in the press. So again, I throw that one completely out. Now,
no, I mean,
please, before we get to De Jong.
The idea here, and this is without defending anybody or blaming anybody except Bartomeu.
Sure.
it's true. If the contracts are illegal, then that would take years to resolve. During those years, you would pay the player. If afterwards it gets resolved, it will be a nightmare to get money back from the player. The primary guilty party would be the club, regardless, because the club is the one offering the contract and the player is just signing it. Like when your employer gives you a contract, you sign it. Like, you should assume that the employer is the one with the lawyers to look over contracts. But let's say that on the face of it, if Bartomeu tells Franky de Jong, hey, I'm going to reduce your salary by 50% this year, but the next 3 years, we're going to double your salary, then I don't only think that that will be ethically wrong of Bartomeu to offer, because he knows that he's not going to be there when that contract is insanely high the 3 years after he's gone. I also think that that's ethically wrong of the player, knowing the position of the club and knowing that that will cause problems afterwards. So here, if this is what happens and this is what is being rumored, I agree with the club to say, hey, this is not right. This looks like both the former president and you and your agents have taken advantage of a very complicated situation for the club. We're going to look at this, and we believe that these contracts would be called void. Like, I don't think that line of thinking is completely insane, because we knew 1 year ago about the financial issues of the club. We knew that those financial issues were unsustainable. So if this story is true, that players accepted a temporary wage reduction for 1 season in exchange for receiving double that money, double the money of our already like huge, expensive contracts for 3 years, that is an issue. And yeah, people can say, well, they signed the contract, so it's on black and white. No, but that's an issue, because everybody knows that this is unsustainable and that the club was already in debt. And even more so that this contract was given by a president who was kicked out of the club 1 week after those contracts were signed.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it goes to court, it's going to take years. You are right. Both the club and the players would lose. But I also don't think it's completely insane that the club says, hey, these contracts are ridiculous. This is not right. This is not okay. We need to fix this, obviously.